If you can't beat them, then you pop them. You can't man them, then you mop them. You can't stand them, then you drop them. You pop them, cause we pop them like overridden vodka. C3, okay, a millionaire. I'm a young money millionaire.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We got myself, Avi Mash, we got Jody, and our boy KT, who still, even though he's driving, is joining us here today for the Daily Stack. We brought him on, I think it was like only 3 weeks ago. But you nailed the 94. Yeah. Bitcoin shot up to 97 today. I think it hit 98 at one point. So we'll be talking through Bitcoin today. We'll be talking through Meta. We'll be talking through Tesla, Coinbase, Bitcoin, and ARM. So get ready. This is the 2026 Alpha brought to you by the Daily Stack. So no Rob today, so I'm going to be the intro guy here. But KT, welcome back. And thanks for joining us while you're driving. That's incredible.
Self-driving, you know, living in the future right now.
Exactly. When you get to a stop sign, hit that retweet button if you can to get rolling. But let's start off with Bitcoin. Again, you came on 2 weeks ago, I think it was, and you said if we hit that 94, it's off to the races. So we did. What other catalysts? I have a few up my sleeve as well to share, but I would love to hear from you in terms of where you think that next line in the sand is.
Bitcoin right now, I think we got the curl of the 9 and the 20 that we talked about. It was basing pretty good, broke out that longer term trend line on the daily. So technically, I'm looking at, you know, like a 94 break. 94 is now the support. I don't think it'll break anymore. Once 98 breaks, we are off to 105 and then all-time highs. It's going to be pretty good. I mean, it's going to be fast, and that's how the Bitcoin cycle kind of moves too. Like once we have that 30% correction, usually Bitcoin outperforms February, March. Like you just have to look at the Bitcoin cycles, right? Like from all-time highs, every 30% correction, and after that, it starts making a bigger move towards new highs. So my target for this year, at least for the first 2 quarters, is around 143K. I know there's a lot of projections around 170, 200, 250, but that's my target for now.
Yeah, we got some news coming out. I believe this week they're going through the Clarity Act as well. So that's going to be huge with the SEC, CFTC, which is going to be like trillions of dollars potentially. I don't know. Did I freeze there for a second? I may have frozen.
No.
But yeah, I mean, so that's going to be absolutely massive. As we talked about 2 weeks ago. We got Bank of America coming on board. We have Vanguard coming on board. Morgan Stanley just said they're coming on board. So we have, you know, the institutions are here, and now individuals that have money with them in their IRAs now can put their money into Bitcoin itself, which is very exciting. So
I have a question though, is KT, like you're a chart guy.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you see stuff like Venezuela, which happened since we last spoke? How much do you see stuff like Iran yesterday where Bitcoin spiked? We were talking about with Tony Yazbek from Bitcoin Way yesterday. And he was looking at Iran and he's saying, wow, their fiat, you know, dollars just collapsing. You know, people are really concerned about a regime change, where their wealth is going to go. How much do these macro events affect your trading? Avi, I'll start with you. How much do those?
I think we lost him for a second. KT, you there? This is one of those moments where who is the guy that they're like, "Why are you on the stock?" And he's like, "What?"
All right. So while we're here, I am going to say this to our sponsor, Magic Mind. Yeah. If you have ADD, this is not health advice or financial advice, but we do like Magic Mind for staying focused, going through an hour-long stream or a 2-hour stream. So go check out Magic.
It genuinely works. I will say that firsthand. And I do have ADHD, and it actually is like a healthy, natural Adderall, I'd say. And this is not health or financial advice there. But going back to the question, Jody.
Yeah.
Say it again. I thought you jumped in.
I'm going to pull up a pic.
Yeah, do that. So I think I mean, I'm not a huge charter, so that question is definitely more for KT. But you can't expect unless you have inside information, which, as we've seen on Polymarket, some people do. And one guy called Maduro being kidnapped the day before, which is crazy. But yeah, you can't predict. Here's Sniper again, but you can't predict some of these news cycles, right? There's rumors, but you never know the timing of it too, right? So like for Iran, it's like seems inevitable that we're gonna go to war, but maybe not. So especially with Trump, it's quite interesting.
One tweet will do it.
Yeah, KT, we'll go to the expert here on this, but he had asked you. He knows that you're very much a chartist, but how do you handle things like Venezuela or like Iran, like things that the normal people of the world may not have insider information that we're gonna go take Maduro in the middle of the night, or we're going to go bomb potentially Iran, or what's happening there. So how do you, from your perspective, handle this news and how, you can't see that necessarily in the charts. I think you're on mute. I don't know if you can hear us. All right. We may, can you hear? You can't hear him, right?
No audio.
All right,
but
this is what happens when you go live, folks. You can't change it. KT, all good. If you can't get it, make sure to drive safe is the most important, because we'll need you back on. So you can hang on here though, just in case your audio kicks back. There it goes. Oh.
You know what I'm going to show you until that comes up. I don't know if anyone's been to LA and seen the fancy grocery stores.
Erewhon,
yeah. So they didn't tell us to do this, but this is an interesting collab. Erewhon and Magic Mind. So if you are both a bougie LA resident and you're ADD, this might be the smoothie for you. As you're trading, jump in, try this out. I bet it's $25. So
yeah.
Bitcoin better be hitting good prices for us to be able to afford that.
No, as we try to get Sniper's audio back on, other news, I think, with Bitcoin Catalyst this year, talking about all those banks, like Bitcoin's now a default 1 to 3% allocation for a lot of these robo-advisors. So the expectations are, it's finally here. I know you never want to say this time is different, but I've been in the space since 2017. It truly does feel different. We've never had, the president of the United States talking about it, the president's son in the business, all of this institutional money coming in, all these global wars and, devaluation of money. There's just so many bullish things there now. It's like, I feel like, what's his name? The gladiator from MSTR group. You can't be bullish enough right now, Jody.
Yeah. I think if you're, one thing to look at though is leverage. I think if you're trading on leverage, if you get too bullish, I was trading, I think, certainly after our last, and I do recommend holding majority of your bag long-term spot. Don't go out and trade all of your Bitcoin. Let it sit in cold storage. But after our last conversation, it breaks through breaks through that downward wedge that we saw, was making, good returns. And then there's been a lot of chop. I think after we broke through that downward trend that we've seen, that big falling wedge, KT was talking about in the last one. I think we still saw chop, the 91 range, high 90s, for a while. So it wasn't that immediate breakout. So now that we're seeing that, I feel like people should feel more comfortable that we do have a shift in momentum. But be careful with that. If you're doing 50x leverage on something, it could easily drop 2K tomorrow on one tweet and then spike back up. Like, it is making those types of moves, and that's where you get washed out. So don't lose your Bitcoin. Don't lose your funds if you're doing high leverage. This is still a very volatile time.
Yeah. KT, do we got you back yet?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah. We're good.
Have you?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about Iran and Venezuela and things like that, like the way I look
We might have lost you again.
What?
Well, you're in and out. You're kind of chopping. I don't know.
Okay, give me 5 minutes. I'll get back on the call.
Yeah, no worries. We gotta get the Starlink.
I'm like almost
for you.
So I'll be back in like 5 minutes. Cool.
Yeah, all good, man.
All right.
So I would say like the other thing is, I mean, you can never understand what the Fed's going to do. If they do stay higher for longer, we'll see what happens there. That's like one of the bear cases. That I also say like the tax wall coming up to retail investors, selling to get out of the new taxing requirements that are coming with the 1099 DA rules. Then we're going to weave into Coinbase, which is now testing 350. Feels like it's, a mix between the casino where it started and now this SaaS powerhouse. And so they acquired Deribit for $2.9 billion. That was recent. Their layer 2 base is starting to win a lot of those L2 wars. We don't talk too much about RWA or real world assets, but that's been talked about very heavy just in the news altogether. And this is supposed to be the year that those start to come into fruition. So that's another big catalyst, I'd say, for them. And the shift to Coinbase One more so. I think they upped those prices slightly as well. And so coming into that SaaS model, I guess, with Coinbase One, looks like it is starting to make a little move. I'm going to check, see where it's at right now. 255 right now. So you holding Coinbase, Jodes?
No, I sold out. I didn't sell out in general. I'm not selling.
Double entendre there.
No, I've ridden coin multiple times, and some good, some very bad. Just exposed to Bitcoin and the economy other ways. And, if I'm holding, strategy, holding spot Bitcoin, I think Coinbase just complicates it. I see why people trade it. Certainly if it's been beaten up in the markets and there's a ton of liquidity there, like someone like an option trader like KT would jump in. But too much exposure in other parts of the bag.
Yeah. Well, you got to take a look at it too. Like, I think they kind of missed the ball there with the prediction markets. That was something that they dropped the ball on. I think that you see Kraken about to IPO potentially next year. Robinhood is taking, a lot of money from, Robinhood is now becoming this like everything app too. So at the end of the day, people I have Robinhood, I have Coinbase, I have a few of those, but in terms of usage, as more and more of these applications, and you think of AI, like, I don't know if people will trust an AI spinning something up right away, but like, you do see how these companies can grow very quickly, and there's a lot of them popping up. So there is more competition. They had a soft Q1 guidance, and they actually I think they got suspended in Argentina as well. So yeah, I think it is interesting. I'd love to hear KT's take when he pops back on.
Yeah, speaking of custodians, we have BitGo that I just got a email from Robinhood. BitGo is now listed on their platform. So this is another one that could be performed really well if we have a bull run. I don't have a breakdown of their revenue streams, but if they can somehow eat into, get a national bank charter like Anchorage Digital, be able to establish themselves with even some, ETFs as like the qualified custodian of choice instead of Coinbase custody. I think there's a ton of upside there. Maybe could be a high beta play. I don't want to buy, right after the IPO, but I think I think it could be pretty interesting move. And we have these free coffee cups that you get at side events, which is nice. Shout out our friend Nathan Stump.
Love BitGo. I got to give a shout out to our friends over there. Just pulled up TrendSpider, great account to follow. Also a great technology to use, and looks bullish. I'm not a huge chartist, I'm not gonna lie, but from that it looks like it could trade.
What's your financial analysis?
No, I got friends in high places where they tell me with the trades. I'm more of a buy and hold ultimately. Tesla, we can move on to as well. Let me.
I'll even, I think before KT gets back on, now's the time to get into the portfolio.
Oh, your Kalshi.
Yeah. So
we're going to just look at yours because I still need to fire mine up. But what you on right now? Bitcoin cross 100 again. Ever? Oh, before February 26th.
Yeah. So yeah, let's get KT back on. All right, Sniper, So what we're doing for the audience, $1,000 in Kalshi prediction markets. Obviously, we're Bitcoin focused, so we're going to do a lot of those. When will Bitcoin cross 100K again? I bought this last week when it was under 50 cents. Right now it's at 69 cents, so 66% return. It's not financial advice, but it is actually pretty fun just to go through. And these change pretty often. They're dynamic. They're fun to follow the news. And we have some really cool potential sponsors and partners we want to bring in for predictions specifically. The next one's Kamini out as supreme leader. Taking a flyer on this one. I don't have any inside info, but things are moving very, very fast. I think Venezuela moved very, very fast. I'm purely betting on speed of we might see another very impulsive event happen in Iran, pressure from outside countries beyond the U.S., or just people wanting to move past the current tension. I don't have any additional info. These are the out there, the home run swings, the flyers picking up for 6 cents or 16 cents a contract is, will Bitcoin hit 150K before April or before June 2026? These I'm just throwing out there. I'm not putting my whole bag in those.
Oh, they're called lottos.
Yeah,
lottos. Yes.
In. I do like, though. I mean, and this follows KT, our last conversation. A couple weeks, a month ago, is if we're breaking 94, if we continue to surge, on the 14th of January, I think 100K absolutely before February 2026. I feel like pretty high conviction on that. Obviously, the markets have moved in that direction from, I think, 48 cents when I picked it up, or 38 cents to 69 cents. But it's this is something we'll hold ourselves to. We're putting real money, out in the open. That way, we're not just podcasting and telling you guys what we think without standing behind it. KT does.
What is this? Is this Kalshi?
It's Kalshi.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I've not used it yet, but prediction market is going to be something like, I have a couple of friends who are working on similar apps like Kalshi, where I was talking to them. They were in their Series A, trying to bring in 150 million to their company. And they are going to do something very similar, but for social media influencers. So anybody can put it out there, and they can start betting against the casino, and anybody can be the casino basically. So, but yeah, I mean, this is great.
Funny enough, I'm one of the sponsors we're potentially talking to. So then these are non-binary, right? Which I know you love, Jody. But so if it starts inching towards 150, you're not. It's not like it does or doesn't, right? It's not going to be like if it goes to zero. So you can trade it like the markets, which is fucking cool. So
exactly. Given the volume, I mean, prediction market volumes are spiking up too, so it's pretty good.
Yeah. I'm gonna throw in. Is there one on Denmark in there, Jody?
Is there one on Denmark?
They're meeting today, and they offered the entire GDP, I believe, of Denmark to Greenland. Or sorry, Greenland. They offered the entire GDP of Denmark to Denmark to acquire Greenland, which is Trump is.
Which one?
Love him or hate him, he's an entertaining president. This is unprecedented. Okay.
The thing to look for is. I think is definitely on volume. So will Trump buy at least part of Greenland? Let's jump in this one. We're seeing a spike.
Yeah. I mean, that's the news today, probably.
It would be fun if he bought it with Bitcoin reserves.
No, we got to hold those. But it is. I mean, it's Europe is now. There are still our allies, but it feels like it's in interesting territory, to say the least. When we just to come back to Coinbase, we skipped you on Coinbase while you were driving there, but not sure if you have any insights there. Jody's not a holder. I do still hold Coinbase, but he brought up some good points. I mean, there are Kalshi, these prediction markets that are coming up. They didn't even, I don't think, attempt to build one, and maybe they will eventually and be late to the game here. But Would love your take as from a trader's perspective.
Well, Coinbase, looking at the chart, it's definitely breaking out with Bitcoin, and many people have been betting on it going back to 180, 185, but I don't think we'll see Coinbase under, 200 per se. More like I'm thinking Coinbase somewhere around the 450 range is where I'm guessing it'll be in the next 1.5 to 2 years, given where Bitcoin will be, and if they do roll out prediction markets using Bitcoin as the ledger or something like that, it'll be even bigger, right? So because Robinhood and Kalshi are both basically um, they are very like fiat currencies, and now with Coinbase doing it with Bitcoin and with the reserves that they have, with all the holdings that most people have in Coinbase, it's going to be very interesting. So I do think like as Bitcoin keeps going higher, as the volumes on cryptocurrencies keep going higher, Coinbase is just going to be a winner. And I definitely think they're like even like a monopoly per se, because I would only believe in Coinbase and than any other company out there. So
Yeah.
even though their clause says, "Oh, if we go bankrupt, we own all your Bitcoin." Yes, it definitely says that. But then like I don't believe any other ledger, any other wallets out there which are not Coinbase.
Yeah. They also, I'm just pulling up their Bitcoin treasury tracker. They're like 14,548 Bitcoin that they're holding too.
Mm-hmm.
So that is something that I don't know if people know about or assume, but yeah, I mean, that's as Bitcoin goes up, that asset.
And I think there's some talks, like I'm not sure about this, but I remember there were some talks when Trump sworn in as president. I think he had some talks with Armstrong about having all the Bitcoin in Coinbase per se, and I think BlackRock also backs it up a little bit. So I think BlackRock has all its Bitcoin in Coinbase. I'm not 100% sure about this, but there is something there.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up. I think if I recall, like 11 of the 13 ETFs were with Coinbase. Not
Exactly.
Sure is still. I'll check that out in a second here as we rip that. But we didn't put this on. Oh, we did. We'll go to that at the end, I guess. MSTR. Should we talk about it now? Just because
let's talk about it now.
Yeah,
what do you think?
Sorry, guys that are went to the bathroom and thought they were gonna get it at the end. I apologize, but MSTR. So I will raise my hand. I bought at a big chunk at 380. So I'm licking my wounds right now, but I haven't sold a share. And this is always in my head, a 10-year plus stock. So finally, back-to-back green days with obviously Bitcoin and them are very, very correlated. But where are you seeing strategy go from here?
I have a different take on strategy. Basically, I like I've said this before too. I think on the show, I just don't know what Saylor is going to do with all this Bitcoin. Is he going to make MSTR a bank? He said he's not going to make it into a bank.
He wasn't again, but I don't believe him.
I just don't get his vision. I mean, when I can only stand behind a stock when there is a vision, and when there's a motive for the company to do a certain thing with all that they are doing in the present, right? Like that's my biggest take on it. But looking at the chart, it's a terrible looking chart, but definitely moving with Bitcoin right now. And MSCI, I think the index also said we are not going to kick out any Bitcoin leveraged companies out of our index, which is a positive sign for MSTR as well. So overall, I think it can go back all the way to 250, 275 or so. If Bitcoin goes back to all-time highs and breaks out to 143 as per my target. But I just can't think about it as a long-term thing. I mean, it's just the way I think. Like I just love having Bitcoin per se than having a leverage where someone else is owning Bitcoin, and I'm going behind their visionless strategy of why they're buying it. So that's
Yeah.
just my take on it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't know what will happen. There can be a pivot at some point. There can be something else that can happen. I don't know.
Pulling up, one of their directors just bought $800,000 worth of shares. I don't know if that's big enough news, but no, I think their whole thing is digital credit facility, and they're making that big bet that becomes a thing. And as if Bitcoin gets more ubiquitous and institutions continue to get in, there's something there. But yeah, I'm not, when I went to Strategy World, I'd say it was like a year ago. You walk out of there like thinking strategy's going to, $1,500, $2,000 a share. And it'll be interesting. I think it is one of those stocks that, it's like a casino.
Speculative. I mean, I just can't think about it as a long-term investment. I trade it quite often, but it's just like, I'll tell you this too. Like I've been wrong on a lot of things, right? Like, so like Meta, I've never got into Meta at all. My entire,
and now you're wearing the glasses, it looks like, almost.
Exactly, right? Like for me, it's all about, it's all about, does this align with my vision, right? Like I really love software, hardware integration kind of thing. What NVIDIA is, Apple is, Tesla is, and, there's boatload of money that I made based on those companies. But, that's where Meta is right now for me. And I love the stock because, they are doing the hardware, software integration instead of just having a Mickey Mouse app like Facebook, which makes no sense to me, right? That is how it is, right? Like I'm never invested in Netflix per se, although it's a great company, but a consumer name and things like that. But I'm never interested in it because I just love the software, hardware integration and all the the platform that comes with it, having the user base on it. And it's a very niche thing that you can do as a company, have both control on the hardware and software, and that's why I love Meta right now because of that.
Yeah, the one thing, go back to MSTR, that I think really comes from with experience versus coming in and it's not fundamental, is sentiment, and that's something Adrian Morris has been on a couple times. He follows MSTR, also based in Arizona, I believe. And Adrian talks about, the market is so sentiment driven that how can the average trader investor know the adoption of what Saylor's doing? Like, do they see the vision? Do the institutions see the vision? Do they, people, Wall Street, like, they earlier, like, or the couple of weeks ago, a month ago, Saylor had a picture of him in New York, talking with bankers. But I think that's been the big narrative is, if you're, a great trader and investor and you're not necessarily a bear against strategy and you're a Bitcoiner and you invest in Bitcoin and related products, but you're not seeing the vision, then what is the gap? Is it, you don't want to like downplay people's intelligence and say it's education. It's just, they might not see necessarily the vision on how he's doing that, or it's just not on their investing time, like horizon. So I think understanding the investor mindset and how quickly they're going to want to, invest in MSTR, or is it just has a level of risk they're not comfortable with? That's something people aren't used to unless they have been around institutional investors and buyers and, portfolio analysts.
I mean, look at this chart. It's been tough, to say the least, but it looks like it may bounce off here. So I think it did, actually. This is from earlier in the morning. So that'll be it looks like it bounced off. So that'll be interesting. I know Tesla's your baby, so we'll let you dive in here on that. But a lot of excitement. I mean, Tesla is one of those things. I actually called this on Pounding the Table when at Tesla's like peak, he started fucking with the government, and this is before he got like involved with the Trump stuff. I was just like, this guy's getting way too close to the sun. Something's gonna happen, and I was right. I didn't make a bet on it. I should have grabbed puts, but I can at least brag on it on the show that I did say that. It did, but now it's making a nice little recovery. What are we watching for on Tesla right now?
Right now on Tesla, I'm definitely watching that 500 level. So it definitely it hit all-time highs again, and then right now it's flagging, and it's very close to breaking a trend line again on the daily. I kind of shared that chart also. It has not broken out yet, but it will at some point. And once it does, I'm seeing 515 at a very least. And Honestly, though, like I was driving back, right? Like, so I was like working, and then my colleague was like, "Hey, I want to buy a new car," and we just popped into a Tesla store. Obviously, he talked to the agent yesterday. He liked one of the car in the inventory, which was the Performance Model S. Um, Again, he leveraged almost 50x on Bitcoin and made a
Yeah.
pretty good killing. Last 3 days, he was like, "Hey, I want to take you and take a picture with you when I buy the car because I bought Bitcoin because when you said it's going to break for 94, it's going to ravage." So that's where he made some money. So
Hey, give
I
us
was there.
$1 too, man. We're platform here. Help us out.
So yeah, I was right there. And it was great. Like I bought my Tesla in 2018, and now it seems so seamless. We just pop in, scan a QR code, go in, talk to a representative, 5 minutes, sign the paperwork, I'm out. That's
Crazy.
it. That like he has a car in his hand.
It's the most
So
fun car. I rented one when I go home to Minnesota every year in the summer, and rented one for 2 weeks, and it is so cool. That self-driving.
Yeah.
The first time I was doing it, there's all this construction, and it like still figured it out. You're seeing people. It's a little scary for me because I trusted it too much. Where I started like texting, and then it like alerts you and is like, get off your phone, like pay attention.
Yeah, you get that with Tesla right now, but I mean, living in Arizona, one of the perks is like it's the hub for all the self-driving cars here. I
Yeah.
use Waymo a lot, and it's 35% cheaper than Uber. I don't have to deal with anybody. I can set my preferences on temperature. Great, like it comes here,
Yeah.
flashes my name on the screen. It says KT, I'm waiting for you, kind of thing. And then
Yeah.
you just get into the car, and it's a fun experience. And when there's no driver, like when you don't want, like I'm a person who does not want to be bothered when I'm like reading something, having a book in my like audiobook in my phone or something like that, right? So it's freaking great. And the way I see Tesla, like and what and I can again, this is the vision that I fall behind Elon Musk too. Like when he says Tesla is going to be the highest valued company in the world, because they are solving the world's greatest problems right now, looking for solutions out there. Obviously, when does that come out? I don't know. Is he an adamant CEO? I think so, yes, because when people were saying, LiDAR is the next best technology for self-driving, he just stuck to the image processing. Obviously, they have all the data in the world also. Like, like Waymo collects like 10 times lesser data than what Tesla does because of the consumer base they have. So overall, I just believe the stock, and I think it'll go to 800 at some point. But and Elon Musk has been talking about infinite money glitch, where he's also talking about once these robots come out, Optimus comes out, he's talking about different subscriptions that you can have on Optimus, and different verticals on top of it. And one thing that that's very interesting too is Trump has been talking about data center electricity bills and things like that with respect to Microsoft. I mean Tesla does not have that problem because they have the vertical on solar. So like
their new data center is macro hard. They just opened up. Yeah.
Exactly. So like I think I see the vision where Elon is going, and I kind of can back him up. Again, a lot of people argue with me what a shitty person he is. He's not intelligent and all that. I don't really care, right? Like I like the vision that he's selling. So
I like making money.
Exactly. So
the important point though is following you. You always talk about Tesla shares, long-term investing. Rarely see you talk about Tesla options.
Yeah.
So for the audience, I want to just clarify, do you typically see those as having too high of a premium, too rich, and not recommending that for anyone following you trading because it's hard to make sure you profit?
Yeah, it's it's the same thing. They are very liquid, like Tesla, Nvidia, both of them very liquid, but then the premiums are way too rich. And it's the best way to do this, right? Like I've talked to one of my friend called June. He lives here. He owns like crazy ton of Tesla stock, like about 30K or 40K shares on Tesla. And all he does is like every time Tesla pops, is like, Kitty, what do I sell? I'm like, yeah, like like he has the right idea where every time Tesla pops, right? Like I'm seeing a trend line break, it goes to 500. I'm like looking for passive income for the next 1 month, right? And every month there's a chance for you to make money on Tesla, like at least 10 grand passive income if you have a boatload of shares on Tesla, because like it breaks out and then it just consolidates and the premiums just get vanished away. It's
Yeah.
better to make money that way, and it's super easy if you know how to sell covered calls on Tesla to get your share price average to zero or less than zero. I mean, I've done this with Apple previously, where you own Apple for like 12 years. At the end of the and by the time 2022, I guess I sold it.
Yeah.
My share price is essentially zero because of so many covered calls that I've sold over the years.
Oh.
Yeah,
They have Optimus coming V3. I'm reading 2026, late 2026.
Yep.
They're not, are they a car company? They're not like really a car company. They're robots.
I have never seen Tesla as a car company.
Right. And I think a lot of people that are not investing or I'm sure there's a few listeners out there that are not familiar with maybe they're seeing the humanoid robots, but like the Megapack business is, I think it's their biggest or fastest growing segment right now.
Yep.
And the cyber cabs too, they're about to, like you mentioned Waymo earlier. I think they in Austin and Phoenix, I believe they just got permits for, if I remember reading.
San Francisco,
correctly.
they got some permits. I think they're in LA too. Yeah, but Phoenix, it's amazing.
So what does Uber do? Just real quick on that, because I used to own an Uber because I was thinking, okay, like you said, it's 35% cheaper. They don't have to pay drivers anymore. So that's like that 35% probably. Where do you see Uber going? Because Uber is the biggest platform still. But does Tesla come in and then people just download the Tesla app and they're like, I'd rather be in a Tesla versus random car?
I think Uber has become a consumer name per se, right? Like just like Netflix. So Uber is not going away. Like you said, it's the biggest platform on right now, and they can pivot to having some partnerships go on and having that pivot to hey Waymo, use this platform, Tesla use this platform, or everything is unified on Uber while they have their own apps or something like that. I don't know what's going to happen with Uber, but talking to some of the investors in Uber, they're very optimistic about, I mean, some higher ups in the company also, like they're like very optimistic about where Uber is going. I do think it's going to like $130-$140 a share. But the biggest thing about how I see Amazon, Uber, things like these when it comes to robotics is the margin, right? When I say Waymo is 35% cheaper, what I mean is you're also calculating the tip that you put in, the person that's coming in, he's charging them some amount of money, which Uber is basically paying them, right? So once self-driving kicks in, and once there's this platform that is so rich enough for users to come in and order cars and whatever that is, I think Uber's margins are going to increase. So I think that's where Uber is going to benefit. That's where Amazon is going to benefit. I do think 26, 27 is a very pivotal moment for Amazon also. Like all these warehouse 24/7, people who are working in there, it's just going to be slashed off by like at least by half.
Yeah.
And all that is margin. All that is one-time investment or investments that Amazon has been making for the last 2 or 3 years. So
yeah, I was just gonna say, it's not, you don't even think about just the salaries of those employees. It's the benefits, the vacations they take. These things can just continuously work, and so it
exactly. You're not dealing with scheduling. You're not dealing with another person looking after certain things of certain people coming in or not or whatever. There's so much time saved. We are a capitalistic country, so time is money, and robots don't have the concept of time. They just keep working.
Yeah.
So
incredible.
How do you look in a simpler sense? Walmart has a Amazon proxy.
The same thing. But obviously, Amazon's the biggest thing about Amazon is they own the cloud business too, right? So that is where their margins are a little bit more higher than what Walmart's might be, and because of the verticals that Amazon has, Walmart, yes, it does have a good partnership, consumer base, all of that, but I just love technology. I love companies that portray their development through technology. I just don't see. I mean, yes, Walmart does invest a lot of money into technology, but I just don't see them that way yet, even though they are like added into the Nasdaq 100 right now.
I'm forgetting the name of those things. They were like early on the it was an RFID chips for logistics. I remember. So
Yep.
I'm sure they have something up their sleeve, but yeah, I haven't read enough about it.
I did a deal with Sam's Club once, and it's like the tightest run team I've ever met.
Mhm.
It's super efficient. Everyone's super smart. They're all living in Arkansas, but like they are like almost military. You know, they know exactly what they're doing, and they want to drive good results. So it's almost like Jeff Bezos is like shadow running Walmart at the same time. Really well run, but you're absolutely right on the side of upside from AI. Amazon's position on the cloud business to really take advantage of that. And that's not something that Walmart, even if Walmart can benefit from robotics, it doesn't benefit from the AI side nearly as much.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's where I think Amazon has a lot of upside to itself too. Like given they have spent a lot of money on it the last 3 or 4 years, with their margins kind of bad. So yeah.
Let's head over to, I guess nothing left on Tesla. ARM. I'm just pulling it up right now. It's down about 3.5%, 3.6%. What are you seeing with ARM? I haven't paid attention.
I trade ARM quite a bit, and freaking thing, it's hitting a very big level right now, like which is a support somewhere around 101 to 105. That's the support area. And there's a nice clean downtrending line, which looks just very similar to how Costco looked like for a while, and then it broke out, and like you're seeing that like it was 890 or something when we looked at that trend line. I was like, okay, once this trend line breaks, we are just seeing 110, 150 points pretty easily on Costco. So my target there was 1050, and it happened the very next day, but unfortunately ARM did not happen the same way. But ARM, I think, is going to be one of the biggest winners when it comes to robotics. So that's how I look at ARM. So in the chip space. So and it's one of those companies I feel like all the companies are invested in, right? Like you remember when Nvidia wanted to buy ARM, it was like a 2-year long battle, and then we were seeing Nvidia going back and forth with it, and then the deal fell through. And once they started, before they came back onto IPO, you saw Apple, Amazon, Nvidia, everybody taking stakes in the company, and obviously SoftBank is too. So I believe in the company for long term. Like I think it's a good add at around 100. Like if you want to buy shares 100 to 105, it's a good add. I mean, if you can easily get a 30%, 35% in the first 2 quarters this year, and probably want to get out. But like overall, I just love that company just for robotics.
Yeah, I mean they just pulled it up. I think they peaked at like 178 in October. And then have been on more or less a free fall since then. And yeah, this is a good company. It's not like some startup company where they're like, okay, they're toast now, at that point. So,
I mean, it's just like MU. It's just like MU, Avi. Like, everybody was like, MU, what do they do?
By the way.
Yeah. So, what are they going to do? Like, it's just memory. Like, once they broke that, .com peak of 95, there's no looking back on MU. Right? Like AI needs memory to train. So you want AI on the edge. You need memory, right? So there's quite a bit of things that happen there. If you look at ARM, their architecture is what drives a lot of chips too, right? So once people go from training to compute, that's where AMD and ARM are a couple of ones that really will have a bigger impact on the chip side. I mean, AMD to an extent, I like it, but like ARM, I just feel it's way too undervalued over AMD. So that's why I like it.
They got earnings on February. What did I just see? February 6th, I think it was.
Yeah, I think usually first or second week of Feb they have it.
Feb 4th, it says. So you like it prior to? We got Dan's coming in with a comment here. So ARM, it seems like a good place to buy. Not financial advice, of course, guys. perfect timing. We're getting into Meta. So Dan Sirios, I hopefully pronounced it correctly, just bought some Meta at 615. What do you think? Dan, I also just bought, I think 2 days ago. So what are we looking at here for Meta?
So Meta long-term trend line is somewhere around 590 right now, and I've posted this like a while back when it hit 585, and that's when I was like, okay, add Meta, and then it ran all the way up to 666. Obviously, this is like a couple of years target, which is around 1200. Like I wouldn't say a couple of years. Okay, probably like 1 year from now. I think there is a high chance Meta can see 1000, and the extended target can be all the way up to 1200. They are one of the best in class for the glasses. Like people have been talking about this quite a bit with me, like and I love them too. Like I use them on a daily basis. Like the phone interface is going to go away, and in a few years. So yes, Apple has like probably like a 3 or 4 year runway to figure out what to do with that. But I just feel like Meta is so far ahead in the race on having a different interface other than a mobile. So that is where my conviction comes from. I think Meta pivoted really well into that space, and I kind of like it. I kind of like that they can grab a lot of iOS and Android users from that space, especially because Google is not going to come up with this anytime soon. I feel. But like they just have a lot of grab that they can do. But I mean, like I said, like Apple definitely has like a 3 year roadway to figure this out. But like Meta is too far ahead in the space.
Yeah, and I mean, like I'm just looking at some of the bullet points I put down. Llama 5, avocado. So Avo, got to give that some love. Q1 2026 is going to launch. And that's going to move them to agentic AI. There's potential movement with a buyback. Do you think they've been spending a ton of fucking money recently? So do you think a buyback? They also have a lot of money. So I don't know if that's on the table at all as well. They
can sell their bonds any day and get their money anytime they want. Like Meta is very big among investors. I don't understand why they loved Meta back in the day when they came out to IPO, and the stock plunged about 50% or so on their IPO day, or the week after the IPO day. But then like I just don't know why investors are so optimistic about Meta. It's one of these companies that many people rave about when they are invested in Meta.
Operationally, I think I feel like they've navigated everything growing out of Facebook super well, made good acquisitions with Instagram. One thing I think on the glasses, and people are, people have been skeptical about it. You've had, Snapchat or Snap, that came out with their product and has been working on that. But, people are like, why would someone wear these? Are they like too, are they too big? Does it seem too unnatural? One thing I think that changes is an absolute like life changer is the ability now with AI models to, in real time assess and analyze and then give you good feedback. So I was in a used sporting goods store the other day and I take a picture of like these, ski pants. And I'm like, hey, I need some backcountry ski pants. And immediately it pulls up just an amazing answer. This is like Gemini Pro of saying, hey, these were sold in 2022. And like, if they fit you, grab them on the shelf right now and pay for them. These are $600 off. They were $800, pants, which is nuts. And it assessed everything in real time based on like knowledge it knew about me. So if you have that with glasses, there was a commercial that came out recently where somebody was changing an oil and they were underneath the car. It was assessing exactly what to do. That changes like work for everyone. It's not just like Amazon robots, or it's not just, these big workers. It's actually like the average person can buy a $200 pair of glasses, give them to your 10 workers in a small business. And then suddenly the training for every small business is like down because they're like able to do work and like have knowledge.
They got to partner with IKEA because people putting together all that furniture. It's like step one.
Hell yeah, exactly. I mean, this thing works really well. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, it does a good job. I mean, obviously, it's not to a point where I would say, oh, are these like Tony Stark glasses? No, obviously, but like, can we get there with compute on the edge and AI models deployed onto them? Oh, 100%. We'll get there.
Are you concerned from a human element about that radiation so close to your head, though? Is that'd be my concern about wearing those glasses all day?
I mean, these are the biggest glasses they have, right? Like these are Oakley. These are not the Ray-Ban.
The
And
radiation, I'm saying, though, like just from the Wi-Fi being so close to your head. Maybe I'm just a psycho.
I have not. I've not felt any. I mean, I listen to music when I'm like running, also on these, and I've not felt weird about anything at all. So I'm a very picky consumer. So
yeah, what are you thinking for a price target on Meta?
1,200. That's what I think. In the next 1 year, 1.5 year, 1,200 is where I'm thinking. Anywhere here, like 585 to 630, 650. That's a range that you can keep adding, sell CSPs or things like that. I definitely like the stock here. I know they added a new board member who was an advisor for Trump, and then the stock just dropped. But overall, I mean, there is a lot of capex spending, right? That's the reason why 25 not much return, 26 not much return. But capex spending does not mean the company is not growing. It does not mean anything bad. It's just a short-term blip where you don't see much returns, but then it's a long-term investment where you see a bigger platform evolving on Meta. So
I love it. Well, Sniper, we got to hop because we got another guest coming on here in about 5 minutes. So we'll take like a quick 5-minute break, but you're welcome anytime. We're gonna have to bring you back at least once a month, but every week I'm down. So you tell me.
Yeah, sure. Any day. I would love to come.
Audience, you saw it. He talked about it a couple weeks ago, but the break through the downward wedge, I think Sniper was on it. And you also weren't saying buy calls immediately when it breaks through. So yeah, we'll say that. But I think generally understanding the trends is very important. And, when you are looking, if you are trading, which, have fun with a very, very small portion of your long-term investment portfolio.
Yep.
It's important just to, the trend is your friend. So now that we're starting to see it go up, is way smarter than actually trying to catch the knife, which a lot of people have lost money on, the past couple months.
Yeah, I mean, people learn, they'll adapt. all through my 13 years in the market, I've seen so many bears come and fall through. They'll stay there in the market for 3 to 6 months, and then you don't hear from them ever again. So, one thing that I'll end the show with is never bet against America.
I love it. Oh, he just hopped up. I don't know if that was intentional, but
that was good. That was good. It was a good ending.
We'll pull him from the screen.
Sorry.
Yeah. He's back.
Okay. Tony Stark is just like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Never bet against America. That's the only thing that my dad.
Never bet against America. We'll you keep popping in and out, but Sniper, we'll see you very soon. We'll bring you back anytime, man.
Yeah, cool, man. Peace.
Everyone else, if you guys want to stick around, we're going to take a quick 4 or 5 minute break, and then we'll be right back on. We got the CEO of OpenTrade, which is a institutional engine for the digital dollar economy. We were just talking about real world assets within the U.S. Treasury. They are very interesting, and so we will bring him on very shortly. So hang tight, and hope you guys enjoyed that with Sniper.
Yeah, get some coffee.
back again. Shady's back, tell a friend. Guess who's back, guess who's back, guess who's back. Guess who's back, guess who's back, guess who's back. Guess who's back, guess who's back, guess who's back, guess who's back. Na 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 na. I've created a monster, 'cause nobody wants to see Marshall no more. They want Shady, I'm chopped liver. Well, if you want Shady, this is what I give you. A little bit of me mixed with some hard liquor. Some vodka that'll jumpstart my heart quicker than a shock when I get shot at the hospital by the doctor when I'm not cooperating. When I'm rocking the table while he's operating. Hey, you waited this long to stop debating, 'cause I'm back, I'm on the... I know that you got a job, Miss Cheney, but your husband's heart problems complicating, so the FCC won't let me be. Or let me be me, so let me see. They try to shut me down on MTV, but it feels so empty without me. So come on, dip, bum on your lips, jump back, jiggle the hip, and wiggle a bit and get ready, 'cause this is about to get heavy. I just settled all my lawsuits. F you, Debbie. Now this look like a job for me, so everybody just follow me, 'cause we need a little controversy, 'cause it feels so empty without me. This look like a job for me, so everybody just follow me, 'cause we need a little controversy, 'cause it feels so empty without me. A little hellions kids feeling rebellious, embarrassed that parents still listen to Elvis. They start feeling like prisoners, helpless, till someone comes along on a mission and yells, bitch. A visionary vision is scary. Could start a revolution, polluting the airwaves of...
Alrighty, we are back and we're bringing David on. David,
what's up, guys? Good to see you.
Welcome. Yeah, good to see you too. Welcome to the show. For those that don't know, David is CEO of OpenTrade and a rare founding era pioneer who's been in the trenches since 2013. Helped launch one of the first Bitcoin wallets on iOS. Served as a key strategist at Centre, as architect of USDC, and spent a decade bridging the gap between high stakes DeFi and institutional banking. David, nice to meet you and welcome to the Daily Stack.
Great to meet you guys. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on.
So we are primarily a Bitcoin show, but this is our one day where we do open it up to the broader markets. We just had our friend of ours, who's one of the best options traders I've seen, Sniper, who came on. We talked a little stocks, and now we are shifting into stablecoin infrastructure. So can you just give us a quick background, on what you're building over there?
Yeah, absolutely. And first of all, for the Bitcoin native audience, I am an OG Bitcoiner. So you guys are close to my heart. Shout out to all you Bitcoiners out there. I work on stablecoins, but I'm still a massive believer. So yeah, at OpenTrade, our mission is to embed yield, the ability to earn yield on digital dollars and euros, i.e. stablecoins, into the wallets and applications that now millions of people around the world are using to manage their financial lives, so that individuals and businesses, especially in emerging markets, can, with a single click, put their idle stablecoins to work and earn safe, predictable returns on those stablecoins. And in doing so, really get access to products and services that unfortunately have not been possible for them to access until now.
Now taking a look at I didn't have this question listed out, but I'm just thinking we're seeing what's happening in Iran right now. We're seeing Venezuela. I think I looked up earlier. You guys are kind of growing in Colombia, if I remember correctly. So how are you taking this all in? As a founder, you're seeing all this, potential chaos, but with chaos comes opportunity. And as we've seen with many of these countries that, what happens when they turn the banks off or turn the internet off like they did over in Iran? So would love your take, just kind of how this all plays a role with the stablecoins.
Yeah, well, I think stablecoins in that world are really interesting because they're digital bearer instruments, similar to Bitcoin. You could theoretically print off $1 billion in US dollars and walk it across the border if you had to. And so, yeah, just from a purely form factor perspective, they are digital bearer instruments. I think what stablecoins represent from a geopolitical perspective is a really interesting push for dollar hegemony. And that's why we've seen the Trump administration be so pro stablecoin, in my opinion, is that, and politicians from across the aisle, if you look at what Bretton Woods did for the dollar, right, it really dollarized the central banking system and dollarized trade. What stablecoins are doing are dollarizing the personal balance sheet. So they're actually going down a layer and allowing everyone around the world that has access to an internet connection to transact in dollars. And I think that that's really a very powerful thing. It's a similar dynamic that attracted me to Bitcoin in the first place.
And we've heard it. Oh, go ahead.
On for every macro armchair analyst that's emerged since the Maduro takeover in Venezuela, people are putting together, okay, what does this all mean with Venezuela? What does it mean with Iran? Both countries have a lot of oil, and is it this geopolitical chess game? When you would love for those that aren't familiar with the story and narrative and the thought behind stablecoins pushing dollar hegemony and furthering that from say the petrodollar era, where we're going in and we're making sure every oil trade is done in US dollars. What is to explain that for audience that isn't as familiar.
All right, yeah, I'll actually break that down. That's a really good. So basically, let's pre-World War II, right? The world was not dollarized, right? The U.S. was an isolationist country, and dollars were really the realm of the Western Hemisphere and primarily the U.S., right? Post World War II, all of the central banks in the world agreed to a system where $1 would always be convertible into $35 worth of gold. And what that did was basically make dollars the world's reserve currency and the lingua franca for cross-border finance. Lingua franca being it's the common language that every central bank and every bank under them speaks in dollars, right? And that was the basis for pretty much the post-war economy all the way up to what we know today, because it allowed the U.S. to run essentially perpetual fiscal deficits, to borrow very cheaply in their own currency, to rebuild post-war Europe, and really to then get to a point where 80% of all global trade is now denominated in dollars, right? But that's kind of the arc of dollars, right? I brushed over a lot there, but that's generally what happened, right? That's how we ended up with 80% of the world trade working.
Yeah. Anyone disrupting that, we're suddenly showing up with tanks. And, and that's is obviously on the crypto side, we're wait, this system is not sustainable. You can't just keep funding a war budget just to be able to maintain this type of system. Obviously, we believe in a new system. And that perpetual fiscal deficit is because we were able to raise money in dollars extremely inexpensively and continue to grow that deficit and then build an army and sort of a geopolitical system that backs that dollar. And here we are today, right? So I'll leave the audience. I'll let the audience decide whether that's a good or bad thing, but that is where we're at. And so stable coins are an extension of that system. But as I said, it's that same trend, but it's taking it down to the personal balance sheet. Because this entire system was really focused on central banks and businesses and corporates and trade. Whereas now stable coins are really taking that dollarization down into the individual wallet.
You said you've been in since 2013 in the Bitcoin space. So all the Bitcoiners yelling at us for bringing stable coins on. I've been in a class of 2017. I'd say I'm a Bitcoin maxi-ish. But I see stablecoins have to play a huge role in this, right? And that's going to be the day-to-day usage. Now, we've seen, MicroStrategy, we've seen a lot of different treasury companies pop up. We've seen nation states start to buy Bitcoin. We've heard a lot of news about stable coins, but really, truly amongst my friends, no one's really using it. Is 2026 that year, or do you think it's still, more of a 2027 thing where it becomes more ubiquitous?
I think so. I think that if you live in the United States or another sort of advanced Western democracy, that you probably won't experience stable coins as directly as those that are living in emerging markets like Colombia or Argentina or Nigeria or Turkey, where their banking systems are wholly inefficient, in some cases corrupt, where they experience hyperinflation on an annual basis, and where dollars are a lifeline. In the same way that we talk about Bitcoin being sort of a store of value that kind of transcends nation states, which I do believe in. For these people, digital dollars in the form of stable coins are that kind of lifeline to establish savings and maintain purchasing power and transact across borders where their existing currencies and banking systems have failed them. So I don't actually think necessarily like if you're sitting in the United States, you should expect stable coins to like massively disrupt your day-to-day life, because I think where the adoption will happen in the US and in advanced Western democracies is actually in the service providers that you use. So wholesale banking, cross-border payments, capital markets, like it will be more of a plumbing thing. And you're kind of just looking at your front end applications and you're able to move money faster and cheaper, but you don't necessarily know why that's the case. Whereas if you're in an emerging market, it's going to be a lot more direct, and it's going to be a lot quicker. The pain point, I think, is much greater.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I got to follow up too, Jody, unless you do. But in terms of like, now I forgot my follow up. Go ahead, Jodes.
I mean, mine's a bigger question. But it's not a conspiracy. I think it's like there's a lot of truth to it. I really want to ask, and this isn't that spicy, but I really want to ask from your expertise on, in my limited, and like I'm know enough, but with yield. Like the question is on yield, and the idea being is that the incumbents is the legacy banking system, regional banks, community banks, even like national banks, is they make money off of the fractional reserve system, and any stablecoin legislation that allows yield natively on stablecoins is something that they would push back on and would be blocking that from going through. What's the current landscape with that? How has that conversation evolved? Is it still banks trying to block that? And then like that kind of ties into what you guys are doing, is like, are you battling banks, to be able to be the yield providers in the future? And or is this something that we were like overblowing, like how the political landscape is rolled out?
I think it's somewhat overblown, but I don't think it's something to gloss over. Let me explain why. So really what you're actually hitting on is something that predates stablecoins, predates blockchain, is the concept of narrow banking. So amongst academics and practitioners, there's been a pervasive theory that actually payments, moving money, should be the purview of what we call narrow banks, which exist simply to take in deposits and serve as a payment utility, paying your bills, collecting payments, paying invoices, and that they actually in that role shouldn't do maturity transformation, which is where you take in deposits and you lend them out into illiquid assets like commercial loans or mortgages. And the reason that we should do that is because fractional reserve banking is inherently unstable, and that if enough people show up at the same time and ask for their money back, it will fail regardless of how big you are. And so for as long as that exists, we'll continue to sort of face these persistent financial crises every 10 or 15 years. So this is a concept that like really does predate stablecoins, that there should be narrow banks that serve as payment utility providers, and then there should be commercial banks which participate in credit creation. What you're seeing in the stablecoin discourse around yield is basically that narrative rearing its head, where the commercial banking system does benefit from taking in cheap deposits, paying you 25 basis points on your savings account, and then turning around and writing a mortgage at 6%.
Nice.
I actually don't think that that's like fair. And so the fact that the banking industry is like really pushing back is the same reason why taxi cab companies threw a shitstorm when Uber was introduced, because stablecoins and yield are genuinely like a better product, and they, in that, by being so much better, represent a threat to the existing business model. Now, with that said, there is a prohibition in the Genius Act from stablecoin issuers paying yield. We're not a stablecoin issuer, right?
Not to cut you off, but that was my next question, is if you could, can you just give a quick overview of what the Genius Act is? Because we have a lot of listeners.
So the Genius Act is a piece of legislation that passed both houses of Congress and was signed into law by the president, that establishes a federal and state regulatory system for stablecoins. So now a stablecoin is a legal thing. It has an identity in national law. Like, it is not just a nebulous kind of, what is a stablecoin? Like, there's a definition. This is what a stablecoin is. It establishes the rules for who can issue stablecoins, what those issuers can do with the reserves that back those stable coins, i.e. only invest them in short-dated U.S. treasuries and commercial bank deposits. It establishes supervision and oversight, so who's responsible for actually regulating and supervising these issuers. It establishes rules for how to wind up an issuer should it fail, so resolution authority, and so it's kind of the rules of the road for stable coins. One of the rules it establishes is that if you are an issuer of stable coins, you cannot pay yield to your holders. And the reason it does that, I think, is because the banking lobby lobbied for that, one. But two, their reasoning is that if you allow issuers to pay yield, that you may incentivize them or motivate them to take unnecessary risk in what they do with the reserves to generate yield to fund the returns that they pay to holders. I would say that that's not the case, because there's rules right there that say, hey, you can only invest these in treasuries. But nevertheless, here we are. And so, yeah, that's been like the regulatory discourse. But there's a long history of basically e-money, stablecoin being a version of e-money, where whether you're in the UK, Hong Kong, Singapore, Europe, the United States, there's always been this thought that there should be a prohibition on paying yield on e-money. And I think a lot of that's been a result of successful lobbying by the banking industry.
And the quick follow-up on that, because we got close to 3,000 people watching right now, and most of them are on Twitter. And if you go on Twitter, there's a new conspiracy theory every day. We actually brought on Caroline Hill. I don't know if you know Caroline Hill. She was still one of my favorite podcast guests that we've had. She was working on the CBDCs for the Biden administration, and she brought up many good points. I asked the conspiracy angles there as well, but there are, I think it was 100.
Caroline Hill's working at Circle.
Oh, Caroline.
Caroline House is the
House,
CBDC.
thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, Caroline House. But you Google how many countries are working on CBDCs, and now it's up to like 130 or so countries. So are they spending resources just to, governments are good at spending resources towards nothing, but you must question, like, what happens with CBDCs, their digital identity. You look at Davos, all these conspiracies just like come true, basically. So would love your take on it.
I mean, CBDCs, you think the banking lobby, it's not that they don't, because the banks, so first of all, let me say banks have a role to play in this future. And I'll explain what that is, but I'm just going to put it out there. I'm not a person who thinks banks disappear, right? I think they're incredibly important to credit creation. But CBDCs, if you think the banking lobby is hesitant about stablecoins, they are vehemently afraid of CBDCs. And I'll explain why.
Yeah.
The two-tier banking system is one in which we as individuals or business owners or corporations deal with commercial banks, right? JP Morgan, Citibank, Bank of America. And those banks bank with the central bank. If you give every individual and every business the ability to hold a balance directly with the Federal Reserve, they will do that. Why is that? Because it is a less risky product. right? there is no run on the central bank, right? And especially if you're a corporation who, even us as a startup, right, where you have millions or hundreds of millions or billions of dollars in cash, there's no deposit insurance on earth that is going to cover that. So you actually need to think about your credit exposure to these institutions. Whereas with the Federal Reserve, if you can hold a balance with the Federal Reserve, you can move money instantly and have zero counterparty risk other than that to the US government, which is presumably lower than even the greatest and most stable bank. And so you basically cut the banks out entirely. And so that my view on CBDCs is that like this is very much like exists in the innovation departments of these central banks, that there really is no serious academic argument for why CBDC would be a good thing, other than maybe those conspiracy theories that some of these people are floating. Like it might be like Big Brother type stuff, but I just don't see a future where CBDCs are viable at all. I think that far too disruptive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in America, I just can't see, people like to protest over, I won't go too deep, but like there's a new protest every week, and so like I'd imagine that the guns would come out metaphorically or literally if that would come on.
Some positive news in that regard regarding privacy is, I think it was this month, our city, like small town like Bend, just removed those traffic cameras that like scan your license plate and like take pictures. And they removed it, or the city did, because people cited privacy concerns, which is like one of the rare steps back that people do. Normally when you lose privacy, like you never get it back. So it supports your point. Like hopefully there's enough pushback. People are educated enough to understand why you would not want, any political party controlling or having that access to information. But
I agree. I think CBDCs will stay in the press release laboratory where they currently live. I don't think anyone should fear a CBDC.
So Bitcoin Maxi into stablecoins. You guys are launching a Solana product with a 15% APR, if I understood that correctly. And there's going to be concerns. People saw Celsius. They lived through the FTX collapse. 15% is one of those things that sounds like a red flag to me, right? Like, anytime it gets too good to be true, it usually is. But what makes this like institutional grade rather than, people that may think this is a Ponzi potentially?
When we founded the company, we did it a few weeks after FTX failed. And we, as individuals who had essentially staked our career on crypto going mainstream and being a real thing that real people use, were really upset with everything that happened because we thought that it did a tremendous amount of damage that we've since recovered from, right? Mostly. And we looked at what happened with BlockFi and Celsius and the various different things that exploded. And there was a kernel of good in them, which was that they made high yield savings accessible, fungible, very fast and convenient, where people were used to earning basically nothing on their savings accounts, right? But they did everything else wrong, right? And so when we built the business, we set out to do everything right. So use basically an entirely bankruptcy remote structure, where, if we fail, if any of our service provider fails, people's money is still safe, right? We set out to use regulated asset managers to look after that money, to use large regulated financial institutions as custodians for that money. So we basically looked at the BlockFi and Celsius playbook and said, hey, look, the core concept of people earning yield on digital dollars is great, but they did everything else wrong. Let's not repeat those mistakes. And so the Solana product, look, it is actually a very simple strategy. You buy Solana spot, you hedge that with a perpetual future, so you have no directional price exposure. This delta neutral strategy is something that, is not new. And then you take that Solana and you stake it, right? And so the objective of the product is to pay the Solana rewards rate without any Solana price volatility. And in bull markets, you get the kicker of you earn the funding rate. So your audience is probably incredibly financially savvy, but for those of you who are new to perpetuals futures, you get paid to be short when there is a divergence between the spot price and the price of the perpetual future, or the price of the perpetual future is higher than that of the spot. And so that is how these perpetual futures markets make sure that the perpetual sort of converges on the spot price, so that there's not this big dislocation for extended periods of time. And so that's how that product works. It's incredibly simple. It's a strategy that people are familiar with, have run for many, many years. And it's just delivered through a institutional grade bankruptcy remote structure that sort of corrects for all of the sins of the past. And so it is obviously, like, past performance is never indicative of future results. Disclaimer, disclaimer, disclaimer. What, flash all those things up there, capital at risk, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's a simple thing. And it delivers what it's supposed to do, which is the Solana rewards rate with no Solana price volatility. And that's important for people that are trying to earn on dollars. They're not trying to take Solana exposure.
Yeah.
Yeah. On the side of, like, we just talked through a few public companies that are involved in the space. And so for some of our TradFi audience that has come in, certainly with, like, we talked about Coin, people are looking at Stripe, and you have Circle, which is diversifying away because people see with interest rate cuts, there's going to be less net interest margin, for them to make the primary source of revenue for someone like the issuer like Circle. What's your opinion on the big players right now issuing, like, Stripe with a Tempo, and then you have Coinbase, with their base chain. Then you have obviously, like, Circle. Arc is the name, I think, of Arc's stablecoin network. Like, out of these bigger public or almost public players, who is most interesting to you? Who do you think is going to win that race?
I think that they're all incredibly interesting for different reasons. And so Stripe is incredibly interesting because they are a payments giant, right? I think, and they're a private company still, right? So they're looking to IPO in 2026. What's that?
One of the biggest.
Yeah, exactly. One of the biggest private companies. And I think people will be shocked to see how much money they move and how much money they make when they do inevitably IPO. And so them sort of betting the farm on stablecoins as this new internet of money is incredibly powerful, because you now essentially enable merchants and their customers in hundreds of countries around the world to do business in stablecoins. So it's like an immediate network effect. And I think they're doing that because they, more than anyone, understand how hard and expensive it is to move value over the internet today, by nature of what they do for a living. And so the ability to move dollars instantaneously over the internet with no intermediaries is incredibly attractive to them, because it will, allow them to do more with less, but it will also allow them to build new products. Circle is, like, we're huge fans of Circle. Like, they've been at it for 13, 14 years, right? They ran a Bitcoin exchange for a while. They've just been plugging away, and they finally hit pay dirt with USDC, right? And to their credit, they've done, I think, more than anyone, they've tried to do everything right, and above board. And they have been Genius compliant before Genius was a thing, right? So I'll give you an example. PayPal and Cash App, right? Incredibly, and Venmo. I'm sure you guys use one of them at some point in your life.
I was early in Venmo.
Yeah.
And I was
what does Venmo do with the dollars that you store with it? You don't know. You have no idea. I could go on Circle's website right now and tell you down to the penny where everything is and what they're doing with my money. They've been doing that for 4 years now, right? And so just from a transparency perspective, I think they've been tremendous. And I think that they're building a lot of software and payments related products on top of USDC. And that's their strategy, right? They're going to monetize those and not just be a business that earns NIM on treasuries, because they can't, right? They're not dumb. They've seen this coming forever, right? They launched USDC in a very low interest rate environment. I'm sure they'll do fine in a lower interest rate environment, right? yeah, so I mean, I don't want to go on too long, but those two companies are incredibly interesting to me. I think Robinhood really has a foothold in the American consumer, especially younger American consumers, and I think that they are doing a lot to give people exposure to Bitcoin, to other cryptocurrencies. And you see them really talking a lot about tokenization of other assets, including dollars. And I think by the nature of how much share of wallet they have amongst young American consumers, that they're going to do some big things in this space as well. And their stock has performed incredibly, I think. I mean, you guys, I think it's
that's one of those ones that got away, and you know, I had it at one point at like $20 or so, and it's just they're kind of doing what, I don't know if I'd make this the best analogy here, but like X wants to become like the everything app. Robinhood's kind of doing that in terms of like, you know, you got stocks now, you can have the banking that they've added now. My friend bets sports, actually, so shout out to my boy Drew. He does sports predictions through that as well. So it's really an interesting. Vlad's awesome. We'll love to bring him on at some point too. But one of the quotes I found that interesting when I was doing some research on you, you said the age of accounts is ending. So for our audience, explain like the difference of having $10,000, let's call it, with Chase Bank or Bank of America versus $10,000 in OpenTrade powered USDC vault. Who you were talking about a little bit about this before, like who actually owns that money then?
So our business model is B2B2C. So our customer is the fintech. So the way that you would interact with OpenTrade would be through a neobank or an exchange or a staking provider or one of our customers that uses us to power their user-facing earn products or their savings products. And so, look, when you invest in a product powered by OpenTrade, it depends on which product you invest in, but it ends up in a bankruptcy remote special purpose vehicle that's run by a regulated asset manager. And the yield generation is done through large regulated financial institutions. And those assets are held in custody with large regulated financial institutions in completely ring-fenced segregated accounts. And so all of that sort of plumbing is what we do, right? So we provide the software, the legal framework, and we connect all of the various regulated service providers into a single package so that if you're a fintech or a neobank and you want to offer your users yield in a safe way, you can do that with a single API integration to OpenTrade. So that's the role that we play. So you would probably never run into OpenTrade. You would run into our customers like Lydio, who's a neobank, or Figment, who's a staking provider. Or, I mean, there's so many. Krypton, it's a Spanish wealth management platform. Bello is an Argentinian exchange, right? There's so many great customers. WooX, it's another crypto exchange. And their end users want to earn yield on their idle stablecoins, and they are able to do that safely and seamlessly with that fintech's integration with OpenTrade. So a lot like Stripe, right? Stripe looked at e-commerce and said, e-commerce is a killer application of the internet. Every company participating in this paradigm is going to need a checkout experience, and they're going to want that checkout delivered as infrastructure so they can embed it in their existing user experience. We look at stablecoins the same way. It's a killer application of the financial internet. And fintechs building on that paradigm are going to want the ability to embed yield and deliver yield to their end users. And so we deliver that as infrastructure the same way Stripe delivers their checkout experience.
Very cool.
What we saw earlier, we were pulling up is our prediction market portfolios. And so, we pull up Kalshi, it's like an hour ago. And, is Bitcoin going to hit 100,000 by, February 2026, which it's doing well in my portfolio.
What's the price on that?
It is 68 cents.
Dave's about to put it in right now live.
Fire it up.
Yeah, I think we're in takeoff mode. That's me personally. We'll see.
100,000. I mean, that's a done deal, right? Aren't we at 95 right now? 97? What are we at?
Let's check it live.
Yeah, let me pull it up.
97.
Yeah.
It's cruising. So Sniper, who was on before, he said if it hits 94, we're going back to all-time highs. So
I mean, I think Bitcoin's a perpetual thing, right? Like because of what I've done for my whole career, I am constantly getting people like aunts, uncles, friends who, are mechanics, everyone.
Uber
like,
drivers.
yeah. What Uber drivers, should I buy this stuff? Right.
Yeah.
And I always say, I can't give you any advice other than buy Bitcoin and hold it for as long as you can possibly, for as long as you possibly can. And ideally you should forget about it, because if you forget about it, you can't get paper hands. Right. And so there's going to be a lot of noise, but I would make a bet that Bitcoin's going to be worth a whole hell of a lot today, in 10 years than it is today. And so that's the only advice that I ever dispense.
It feels different. I bought 2017, and I think my first Bitcoin was 2,400 or so. And so I sold that one at 66, thinking I was a genius, 3x. But now it feels so different, where everything has changed fundamentally. It's hit that inflection point, in my opinion. So
the Bitcoin ETF was the most successful ETF that BlackRock has ever had, and BlackRock is the most successful ETF company in the world. I mean,
that's all you got to know, right?
Yeah.
So Dave is going to loop this in to you guys. So up here in the Kalshi portfolio, hopefully no PII. I
want to zoom in a little,
but is interest is 3.25 APY eligible. So bringing it together, what you're saying is you guys are looking for opportunities like this where someone parks cash within a platform, within a prediction market. We know a couple, like obviously Kalshi, Polymarket, Predix, Cash is one we've been speaking with, and people are going to hold balances there. And now that you're setting the expectation with someone like a Coinbase or a Robinhood that there is the ability to earn a yield on it that's better than the traditional savings account they're getting at JP Morgan or Wells Fargo. Is this the kind of stuff that you're focused on?
That is exactly it. So you hit it on the head. Anywhere anyone's holding a dollar balance, we think that is going to be powered by stablecoins, and we want to be the one behind the scenes that delivers yield on that in a very safe, secure, programmable way. And so Kalshi, unfortunately, is not a client yet. I'm not.
See this.
What's that?
Until they see this live stream.
Yeah, no, I mean, I hope anyone from Kalshi out there. My Twitter handle is actually at BTC_Dave. So
there it is.
I signed up for Twitter a long time ago when I was just a Bitcoiner. And so hit me up.
I have a little fun question. So we were just talking about strategy. So we're seeing companies like Strategy. There's, I think, 180, closer to 200 Bitcoin treasury companies, many of them which have been hit recently. Now, obviously, stablecoins are a different beast. But do you see a world in which, OpenTrade could allow corporations to then tokenize these T-bills with the click of a button and kind of salarizing every small business in a sense?
I do see a world where today we are a single-sided marketplace, right? So we collect idle stable coins and we invest them in existing public fixed income markets, private credit markets, DeFi markets, crypto strategies, but we don't have our own lending desk, right? So we're not on the other side lending directly to small businesses. I do see a world where that is possible, right? And that we then have sort of a multi-sided marketplace where companies can, instead of investing idle capital, can then borrow from those pools of idle capital and issue sort of bonds or notes or what have you. I do also see and we're increasingly talking to more ETP providers and DATs where there is a role for cash in their portfolios, and that there's a way to earn on that cash that's aligned with their core thesis, whether that's through Solana staking or ETH staking or Avalanche stake. We're a huge partner of Avalanche. I think that there is also a realm for us to play there. But these treasury companies, some will make it.
Yeah, Metafinance had a nice little run here, and today, but it also crashed, but it's recovering pretty nicely. I'm almost back green here.
I think it's a really interesting piece of financial engineering. I don't own any of them myself, but I think they're incredibly interesting. I think Strategy has been a pioneer, obviously. Yeah. Hats off to Mr. Saylor for what he's done.
Yeah, hard to find a better, more confident voice for the space. So Dave, speaking of things you own, are you going to go buy that market of 100K by February 2026?
This is not financial advice. Disclaimer, disclaimer. Yeah, I am actually. Beat me to it. I think that's a sure bet, honestly. Not financial advice, not financial advice.
I think the next law I would have is if you're a podcaster, you don't need to, you shouldn't have to say that. It's, don't take financial advice necessarily.
No, I know. And the Bloomberg guy, Matt Levine, he has a really interesting piece on like where that all falls. I'll try to find it and send it to you guys, but it's an interesting realm, especially with like the meme stocks in the like sort of pandemic era, the role that we public voices play in the decisions. It's interesting, but yeah, no, it's a really interesting bet.
I have one around the Fed, Jodes, if you have one, but who do you think what happens here with the new Fed chair? Do you have a Kalshi prediction on who you think is going to go in there?
Well, first of all, I think Jerome Powell did a pretty good job. So that might be a controversial statement, but he was a Trump appointee. They were behind the ball on pandemic era inflation, but who wasn't? They got it under control. And they got it under control in a way that didn't tank the economy. Like typically when you see these like massive tightening cycles, like there's a lot of destruction and things break, right? And knock on wood, we haven't seen that yet. And we've had historically low unemployment, and we're hitting all-time highs in the stock market. So like both Main Street and Wall Street have come through relatively unscathed. So like, I do think that like the attacks on Powell are, I don't know. But who's the new Fed chair? I don't know. Look, I'll say this. I think you've seen the Senate Banking Commission come out and say in a bipartisan manner that we're not going to just put anyone in the position. And they're not asleep at the wheel. And so like, I think whoever it is will be qualified. I don't have a bet. Who do you guys think?
I was just going to try to pull it up.
While he's pulling it up, I do think that's a fair point. Like, not saying it's a full defense, but I do think it's a fair point that this day and age is easy. Is an easy punching bag, right? You had Gary Gensler, who's like the boogeyman for so long. He's gone, so people are looking at people to point fingers at. But if you're a Trump appointee, there's some culpability in like, signing on to that. You knew who Jerome Powell was, coming back into it. You knew how he was going to act. He's pretty conservative guy. He's not going to move fast. He seems like he's actively trying not to be politically swayed. Then I think if you're, say, like a Bitcoin podcaster, too many people made really bad predictions of when Bitcoin was going to hit 1 million. And if people traded off that information, it was just really bad advice. And so none of those people actually had enough blowback for making really bad advice, the same way that Jerome Powell, he's in a different role. He has responsibilities,
Yeah, definitely. And look, I want to be clear too. I think like just the policy that we've had in the US around crypto and Bitcoin has been phenomenal. And so like, I have to, like, this is a realm like Fed chair policy is like professionally, this is personal opinion that we're talking about here. But who do we have here? Kevin Warsh.
Kevin Warsh is leading right now, and Kalshi. Hassett, I think, is Bitcoiner's, choice overall. He's been a lot more friendly overall with that. But I think Jamie Dimon's back in Warsh, or he's like a fan, more of Warsh. So it will be interesting. But
when did that flip? So where Warsh, like he was going down. What was the
I'm going here. Let me try to zoom in. December 16th.
And when is the dip? Like his dip little where Hassett went up? Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Where it crossed. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
right
just
over.
curious if like Tom Tillis, who's the ranking Republican on the Senate Banking Commission, I wonder if his comments around Fed nominations in response to the indictment, what's driving that? If they expected a more sort of moderate candidate to, I don't know how rational these markets are. I haven't been watching them closely.
Yeah. How? Who do you think kind of fills that void of Senator Lummis? I think she's retiring, or she's gonna go off and do something else, probably. But probably
Yeah.
the board of.
I'm not sure who fills the void. I'm not watching that state so well. I think generally speaking, like the crypto and stablecoin efforts in Congress, like amongst the practitioners, have been like, by all measure of other issues on which we fight, have been fairly bipartisan and surprisingly technocratic. I don't like what Senator Warren's been doing is not helpful, right? Like, just like I'm raising an anti-crypto army and all that crap. Like that has not been helpful. But both Democrats and Republicans have been, their core group of them have been working at the right things. Where there's disagreements, their hearts and minds seem to be in the right place. And so I'm hopeful that whoever does replace her follows in that same spirit as what we've seen Henry and the Democrat from New York. I can't remember his name.
Blanking on his name too. I know you're talking about Torres, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
Anyway, so wrapping this up, anything additional that we didn't touch on that you'd want to share here as a closing statement?
No, guys, thanks for having me on. I mean, this we talked about a whole hell of a lot more than stablecoins, which is
we were going to do like 15-20 minutes with you, and it kept going. This is so interesting.
No,
with it, but
if you ever want to chop it up again, man.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
Where do they find you? So you're Bitcoin Dave on, or is it Bitcoin? Is there underscore or anything?
Yeah, at BTC_Dave on X, Dave Sutter on LinkedIn, and OpenTrade.io on our website. Anyone interested in building in the stablecoin space, reach out. And anyone that just wants to chop it up on Bitcoin, also reach out.
Very cool. Joe, let's take us home, dude.
All right, everyone. What we love to do is give away sats. So get out there, use Bitcoin. Maybe we figure out a little OpenTrade integration, but 21rates.com/stack. That's where you can go in, and we'll do daily wheel spins there. Also on Friday coming up, can't remember who our guest is, but we have a guest coming up this Friday. We're going to be giving away sats like we do every week. So 21rates.com/stack. We're trying to make it so easy. My mom, who's flying in town today, can get Bitcoin and transact with it. So everyone listening, really appreciate it. Dave, loved having you on. Love talking. Go out, not financial advice, but go out and check out that poly market or the Kalshi market. I'm bullish, Sniper's bullish, that we had on at the beginning of the show. And hopefully this is the launch pad. We broke 94. 105, as he said, potentially next level.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Love it.
Yeah. Talk soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.